Ronin Mode Unmasked. Chapter 46, Kat. I believe it was 94 or 95. Honestly, I cannot really remember. I was 12 years old, going on 13, and I was living in San Diego, California, in junior high, probably 7th or 8th grade. Back then, life felt a lot simpler. Not easy. Just simpler. This was not long after me and my best friend Speak 79 had done the school talent show, and that actually boosted our popularity a lot at school. I still remember how cool that felt. It was one of those little moments that made you feel like maybe, just maybe, you were starting to matter a little more in the world. Not long after that, some girls on the walk home started singing the same song we had done, Boys II Men's End of the Road, smiling and laughing while following us home. Man, that felt good. That was the kind of thing that made you feel like the world was opening up just a little bit. Me and Speak 79 also got into breakdancing around the same time, and honestly, we were not bad. We were not professionals or anything, but we had the basics down. The daisy kick, the coffee grinder, the windmill, and even the nickel. Oh, and let us not forget the infamous double daisy kick too. We thought we were smooth as hell back then. All we listened to was rap and R&B, Salt and Pepper, Craig Mack, Busta Rhymes, TLC, all the good stuff. Oh, and let us not forget Coolio. That music was the soundtrack to everything. My mom was still young and healthy then, so all in all, things were going good. Even the place where I lived was cool. I had 3 different big-ass arcades, the mall, the movie theater, and a bunch of other cool shit all within walking distance. So I did not even need a car to get around, because everything cool was close by. Not to mention, the beach was only a 15-minute drive if we really wanted to go, which we did a lot when we got a little older. Life was good, and I really missed those days bad. One day, me and Speak 79 were just chilling outside my house because we had gotten bored of playing my SNES, and I do not think we had any money to go to the arcade that day. So we just sat outside, kicking it and watching the cars go by, letting the afternoon drift along. Then I looked over at him and said, "Yo, everything is going good for us, but you know what would make things even better?" Speak 79, sitting there with me, said, "What, yo?" I said, "If we had some actual girlfriends." Speak 79 agreed. So I said, "This is what we are going to do. Next girls we see walking by, we are going to go talk to them and see what happens." He was like, "Cool." That was why I liked Speak 79. He was always down for whatever. If it had been any of my other friends, they would have made a bunch of excuses. He was just the kind of guy who would jump into something with me and not overthink it. So we waited. And as if heaven had heard us, not more than 5 minutes later, 2 girls walking side by side, around the same age as us, walked by. And I was like, there's our chance. Let us go. So we started following them. Now, at this time, I was not shy, but I was not super confident either. Let us just say my game was still developing. We followed them to the arcade, which was only like 2 blocks from my house, the Family Fun Center it was called. We had another spot called the Boardwalk, which actually had its own bowling alley attached to it, but that was more like a 1 or 2 miles from where I lived. Me and Speak 79 were just chilling at the arcade, and I was trying to build up my nerve to go up and talk to them for obvious reasons. At that point, the 2 girls had noticed us, and I am sure they were probably wondering if we were ever going to talk to them or if we were just going to keep following them all night. By the time it was getting dark, the girls had gotten sick of the arcade and were leaving. So we followed them again. But by now it was getting weird, because when they left the Family Fun Center, they ended up walking to the Target right next door and then walked right out again. all the while laughing their asses off because they knew me and Speak 79 were still following them. At that point, I was like, fuck it. Shy or not, I am going to talk to them. So I kind of ran up to one of them and said some stupid shit like, hey, what school do you guys go to? Yeah, that was it. That was all I could come up with at the time. Pretty sorry, right? One of the girls, who looked exactly like MJ from the original Spider-Man trilogy, was about to say something back, but at that point I had felt like such a retard that I was like, never mind, and was going to just walk away. Then she said, my name is Kathy, and this is my friend Crystal, and we go to so-and-so school. I do not remember what school she said, but it was not the same one me and Speak 79 went to. And I was like, cool, my name is Paul, and this is my friend Speak 79, and we go to so-and-so school. So we started walking with them and just making small talk, but Kathy, the girl who looked like MJ, I was vibing with her. She had this light, almost pale skin with dark red hair and small freckles all over her face. But she was not a ginger if that was your thing, because her freckles were very light and you could not even tell from far away, and her skin was not that pale. But she definitely had some of that mix with whatever nationality she was. And she also had dark, seductive green eyes. Way too seductive for a girl of her age. So we walked them home, and if you were wondering, her friend Crystal was white with blonde hair and was actually pretty cool too, but this story is not really about her. So we found out that Kat, that is what everybody called her, was 13, and her friend Crystal, I believe, was like 14. Before we said goodnight for the night, I asked Kathy if she wanted to hang out or do something sometime, and she was like, yeah, cool, if you want come by tomorrow and we can kick it. I said, cool, see you tomorrow. Good night. The next day, Speak 79 was at my house and we were getting ready to go over to Kat and Crystal's place. They both lived in the same apartment building, and it was only like 4 blocks away from where I lived. We were asking each other, yo, which one do you like? And I said, truthfully, I think me and Kat are already vibing together. But at the end of the day, it is really up to the girls to decide who they like. Speak 79 agreed. So the plan was we would go over there, hang out, and let the girls decide who they liked more. I was like, cool, let us go. So after like a 15-minute walk, we got to Kat's mom's place, and Crystal and her were just chilling in Kat's room, listening to music and playing Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the one with tails. And I was like, cool, I had a SNES, but before that I did have a Genesis with the original Sonic the Hedgehog game. But I had never played Part 2. So we all hung out in Kat's room, just chilling. I spent most of the day just joking and laughing with Kat, and this was when I kind of learned that when I really wanted to, I could turn on the charm, because Kat was digging it. Speak 79 was doing the same with Crystal. At one point, Speak 79 pulled me to the side and said, yo, I got the info from Crystal. She said that Kat really likes you and already made up her mind. I am not going to lie, it was a long time ago, but hearing him tell me that was a cool feeling. I still kind of remember it to this day. Understand that at this point, I had literally zero experience with girls besides the casual friend stuff. So I whispered back, all right, cool, let us just stick to the plan and keep it cool. Speak 79 agreed. At this point, it was getting late and I needed to get home before my mom started bitching at me. But before I left, I pulled Kat to the side and said I had to go, but I had a lot of fun with her today. And she was like, yeah, me too. Can I see you again tomorrow? And I was like, yeah. At that point, I kind of just got lost in her dark green eyes, and we were standing super close to each other. Then, without thinking, I just closed my eyes and leaned in and kissed her. Not a super long, sexy kiss, maybe like 5 seconds, but I felt every moment of it. When I opened my eyes, I saw her smiling back at me, and I was like, "Bye, Kat, see you tomorrow." And she said, "Bye, Paul, good night." And that was Kat, my first girlfriend, and my first kiss. But the story does not end there, because me and Kat actually have a lot of history together. 1000% facts. Ronin Mode Unmasked. Chapter 47, 7 Minutes in Heaven. Me and Kat started hanging out almost every day. In the beginning, I'm not going to lie, it was nice. We'd chill at Kat's place or over at Crystal's when their parents weren't home. I was always cool with Kat's mom, she seemed to like me for some reason. Kat's dad was out of the picture, I never met him and never really heard him mentioned, so the house felt like a revolving door of us just joking around and passing the time. Kat clearly had more experience than I did, and I was fine with that. I was still learning the ropes, and I was willing to soak up whatever knowledge I could get. It turned out that Kat was teaching me things without even trying to hold a class. She showed me the essentials, how to slow down, how to pay attention, and how to read the moment instead of rushing in too fast. She didn't over-explain it, she just helped me understand what girls liked and what they didn't. She was essentially my personal romance teacher. But Kat was also kind of twisted, honestly. If I did something wrong or we didn't see eye to eye on one of her lessons, she'd pull out this long wooden spoon and hit me with it. Like, hard. I'd be thinking, what the hell is this girl's problem? Is she mental? But I could tell she enjoyed the sense of power and control. It was kind of scary, to be honest. Still, the lesson stuck. She taught me about timing, confidence, and how to read a girl's energy. She made it easier for me to understand what was needed without making a big speech out of it. She just showed me. Then there was Michelle. She was about my age and went to the same school. I knew her because she was in the talent show and used to watch us practice. One day, she came by while we were all hanging out at Kat's house, and since she and Kat were friends, she fit right in. Michelle was skinny with pretty blonde hair and blue eyes. She was a little self-conscious about a birthmark on her neck and would try to cover it with makeup, but it didn't matter to me, nobody's perfect. If you're cool with me, I'm cool with you. At the time, I didn't realize Michelle had a crush on me. I was just focused on the vibe. It was late at night, Kat's mom was out at the bar, and me, Speak 79, Kat, Crystal, and Michelle were just hanging out, laughing like nothing else in the world mattered. Suddenly, Michelle smiled and looked at the group. "You guys ever played 7 Minutes in Heaven?" I was clueless. "Not really." "What is it?" She laughed. "It's simple. We pick one boy and one girl at random. Nobody knows who is who. You go into a dark place, like the bathroom, and make out for 7 minutes straight." My jaw hit the floor. I'd never heard of anything like that before. Speak 79 looked at me like, "Yo, this is crazy." Kat and Crystal were laughing, and Michelle sat there like she already knew what the answer would be. We were all down for it. I went into the bathroom. It was pitch black, and I could feel someone else was already in there. We started making out, and I knew right away it wasn't Kat. I'd made out with her enough to know the difference. It had to be Crystal or Michelle. Crystal was a little heavier, so I didn't think it was her. When the timer was up, I was right. It was Michelle. Later on, I realized the whole thing was her idea. She'd cooked up a game just to get close to me, and I hadn't even caught the play at the time. I was just too busy thinking it was a funny group activity. Kat, who knew what was up, didn't seem upset by it at all. The rest of the night played out the same way. We all ended up making out with each other. It was perfectly fine, no fighting, no arguing, not even a hint of jealousy. I think we were all just too young to fully understand the weight of what we were doing. But that word, jealousy, I was going to learn it soon enough. And Kat was going to be the one to teach me that lesson too. 1000% facts. Ronin Mode Unmasked. Chapter 48. The last time I saw Kat, or so I thought. Me and Kat ended up being together for a good 3 months or so. And honestly, for a while, things were great. At 13 years old, 3 months felt like forever. We were together almost every day. She was my first real girlfriend. The first girl who made me feel wanted. The first girl who made me feel like maybe I was not just some awkward kid standing on the sidelines watching everyone else live their lives. But eventually, we started having problems. Looking back on it now, I think part of it was that Kat had pretty much gotten all the excitement she wanted out of being with me. She could be like that sometimes. Once something stopped feeling new, she would start looking for the next thing. The other problem was my mom. By this point, I had already turned 13, and she was getting tired of me staying out late and hanging around girls whose parents were never home. Every time I wanted to go somewhere, she had something to say about it. Eventually, she had enough and grounded my ass for a week. Honestly, looking back now, she probably was not wrong. But at the time, I was completely infatuated with Kat. She had her claws in me, and I was not trying to hear anything anybody had to say. So when my punishment was finally over, I headed straight to Kat's apartment. I wanted to explain everything. I wanted her to know I had not disappeared. I wanted to tell her I had been grounded, and that was why I had not come around all week. But before I even reached the front door, I could hear laughter coming from inside. The door was partially open. And when I looked through it, I saw Kat sitting there with some guy I did not recognize. There was somebody else there too, but I could not make them out from where I was standing. I remember freezing. Just standing there. Watching. Trying to understand what I was seeing. Then Kat noticed me. For one stupid second I expected her to smile. Maybe say, "Paul, where have you been?" Maybe tell me she missed me. You know, normal boyfriend and girlfriend stuff. Instead, she looked right through me. Then she turned toward the people inside and loudly said, "Yeah, this is my new man." And after that came the insults. The jokes. The hateful comments. Even now, all these years later, I honestly do not know if she was trying to hurt me or impress the new guy. Maybe both. At 13, I did not know what to do. Part of me wanted to fight him. Part of me wanted to yell at her. Part of me wanted answers. But my brain could not process any of it. So after standing there for a few moments, I simply turned around and walked away. No dramatic speech. No confrontation. No closure. Just a kid walking home with his heart broken. About a week later, me and Speak 79 were hanging out at the Family Fun Center arcade. I had told him everything that happened. His response was pretty much, "Yo, that sucks, man." At that point, him and Crystal were not together either. Honestly, I cannot remember if they had broken up or if Crystal got into trouble and moved away. Time has blurred some of those details. But the point is, we were both single again. While we were hanging out, I saw Kat walking up the stairs toward the arcade. For a moment I thought about talking to her. Maybe asking what happened. Maybe finding out why she did what she did. Maybe trying to fix things. Then I remembered standing outside that apartment. The jealousy. The sadness. The anger. The feeling of being replaced. And suddenly I did not want answers anymore. I just wanted peace. Looking back, that was probably one of the first truly grown-up decisions I ever made. Not every relationship needs closure. Not every question needs an answer. Sometimes people show you exactly who they are. And when they do, the smartest thing you can do is walk away. I appreciated the time me and Kat had together. Especially everything she taught me. In a lot of ways, she was my first lesson about relationships. Maybe this was just the final lesson. How to let go. So I ignored her. And as far as I knew, that was the end of me and Kat. Or so I thought. Fast forward about 2 years. I believe it was 1996 or 1997. Not long after Tupac got shot. I still remember hearing the news on the radio with my cousin Pizza. For whatever reason, we took it hard. Hard enough that we ended up wearing black for 3 days straight. Looking back now, it sounds kind of funny. But when you are a teenager, music feels personal. The artists you listen to feel immortal. And when one of them dies, it feels like somebody punched a hole in the world. Around that same time, my aunt and my cousin Pizza had moved in with me and my mom in San Diego. I had not really spent much time with Pizza since I was around 10 years old. I was 15 by then. Pizza was 16 or 17. And life looked very different than it had 2 years earlier. I had gone through a serious growth spurt. Suddenly I was over 6 feet tall. Lean. Athletic. And, according to pretty much every girl I met, pretty damn handsome. I know that sounds arrogant. But I only bring it up because the change was impossible to ignore. Girls started noticing me. A lot. Sometimes girls my age. Sometimes older girls. Even women in their 20s would flirt with me once in a while. It felt like it happened overnight. But the biggest change was not physical. It was mental. Thanks to Kat, and all those months spent forcing myself to talk to strangers, collect phone numbers, and push through my shyness, I had become confident. The scared little kid who could barely talk to girls was gone. For one of the very few times in my life, I genuinely felt good about myself. Comfortable. Confident. Like I belonged. And whatever emotional damage Kat had left behind, I thought I was over it. Or at least that is what I told myself. Then one day, completely out of nowhere, I ran into her mom. I believe her name was Mary. The second she saw me, her eyes widened. "Paul? Is that really you?" I laughed. "Yeah. It's me." "Wow. You've really matured." "Thanks, Mary. How have you been?" "How's Kathy?" "We're okay," she said. Then she hesitated. "Honestly, Paul, I always liked you. Some of the guys Kathy has been seeing lately, I'm not too happy about." The moment she said it, I knew where this conversation was heading. And I had to stop and think. Did I really want to do this again? After everything that happened? After the way she treated me? But if I am being honest, I wanted to see her. I wanted to know what happened to the girl who had once meant so much to me. So I took a chance. Well, if she'd want to, maybe I could give her a call. Catch up. Mary smiled. I think she'd like that. Truthfully, Paul, I always liked you. She wrote down Kat's phone number and handed it to me. Back then it was just a house phone. No texting. No social media. No easy way to hide behind a screen. If you wanted to talk to someone, you called. And when that conversation ended, I headed straight home. The second I walked through the door, I told Pizza what happened. He practically jumped out of his chair. Back then we'd spend entire afternoons playing Mortal Kombat and Final Fantasy VI while talking about girls. He knew exactly who Kat was. And he was immediately invested. So are you gonna call her? I stared at the phone. Took a breath. Then dialed. A girl answered. Hello? I smiled. Guess who? There was a pause. Then, Paul? We both started laughing. Just like that, 2 years disappeared. Yeah. It's me, Kat. Her voice sounded exactly the same. Just older. More mature. More familiar than I expected. We talked for a few minutes. Then she surprised me. We should hang out. I'd love to see you. I did not even hesitate. Are you free now? Yeah, but give me about an hour to get ready. Remember the donut shop where we used to meet when we first got together? Of course. Meet me there in an hour. I'll be there. When I hung up the phone, I looked at Pizza. Bro. I gotta get ready. To say I was excited would be an understatement. Yeah, she had hurt me. Yeah, things ended badly. But enough time had passed that I was willing to believe we had both just been stupid kids. I wanted to see her again. That was the truth. I jumped into the shower. And while the water ran over me, I remember thinking about the last time she had seen me. The awkward kid. The inexperienced kid. The nervous kid. I wanted her to see somebody different. I wanted her to see how much I had grown. So I got dressed. Black dress pants. A Perry Ellis button-up shirt. Matching shoes. The whole thing. If you've noticed a pattern throughout this story, whenever I have a big date, I always dress up. That came from my Uncle Jack. One of the best pieces of advice he ever gave me was simple. Dress to impress. Because if you do not care enough to put effort into yourself, why should anyone else? And as I stood in front of the mirror that afternoon, getting ready to see the girl who had once broken my heart, I could not help but wonder one thing. After 2 years, would Kat even recognize me? Ronin Mode Unmasked. Chapter 49, Seeing Kat Again. All right, bro, I'm going. I'll see you later, Pizza. Paul, you gotta let me come with you, Pizza said. I have to see this girl you've been telling me stories about in real life. Please? I laughed and shook my head. Okay, but you're only coming with me to the coffee shop. When she gets there, I want you to disappear. I need some time alone with her at the start so I can catch up on everything and work my magic. Once I'm ready, I'll meet up with you at the mall, and then we can all hang out together. All right, Pizza said. And try to get a hold of Speak 79 too. He's gonna want to see her as well, I added. Yeah, for sure, Pizza nodded. And we headed out. We started walking toward the coffee shop near where Kat used to live. It was only about 4 blocks away, nothing crazy. I didn't have a watch on me, but we must have gotten there a little early because she wasn't there yet. I turned to look at the clock on the shop wall. I think it was around 3 o'clock. While I was looking, Pizza suddenly pointed and said, "Bro, tell me that's her right there." I turned to look through the glass window. And there she was. Let me tell you something right now. Remember what I told you about Kat looking like MJ from the Spider-Man trilogy? Well, throw all that shit out the window, because I wasn't the only one who had a growth spurt. Kat had changed. Actually, she had changed a lot. She wasn't much taller than I remembered, but everything else about her had developed in a major way. Honest to God, at that moment, to me she looked 10 times more beautiful than Kirsten Dunst ever did, it wasn't even close. She had pretty much grown into a full-on woman. But if you don't believe me, go ask my cousin Pizza if you can ever get a hold of him, because I sure can't, and he'll tell you the same thing. Pizza's jaw hit the floor. Kat was about average height for a woman, maybe 5'2" or a little shorter, with light skin and this dirty blonde strawberry hair that fell all the way down her ass. And her body? She was not fat or anything, but her body had filled out in a major way. "Paul," she said. The second she saw me, she came right over and gave me a big hug. "How have you been?" "I'm good, Kat. How are you?" I replied. "You're so tall now," she said, smiling. "Wow, look at you, you really grown, Kat," I said. I could tell she was checking me out, and right then, at that moment, honestly, after 2 long years, I could tell she was happy to see me. "You look great, Kat." "Thanks." By this time, I introduced Pizza to Kat, and then I gave him the look like, "Beat it, bro." Pizza was like, "I'll catch you guys later, I'm going to head to the mall or something," and then he just left. Kat and I sat down and just talked for a few minutes. Just small talk. Just catching up on each other's lives. I found out Kat had moved out of the apartment I used to know and was now living right next door to the coffee shop in a different apartment complex. I could also see her eyes were different than I remembered. They were still green, but now they seemed way brighter, especially when the light hit them. I asked, "Do you want to get out of here and just walk around? Maybe try to get into something like we used to?" She said, "Yeah, that sounds like fun." So I grabbed her hand, and we left the coffee shop. We ended up just walking around the neighborhood holding hands, hitting all the places we used to hang out when we first met. I remember some guy trying to catcall her out of his window, and that got me a little tight, but Kat just squeezed my hand tighter, so I just let it slide. This was in the springtime in San Diego, so the weather was super nice, not too hot or cold. Now, I want to spit the game right now for all of you. I'm sure most of you already know all of this, but for those of you who don't know, when you go on a date for the first time, it is important to try and make some kind of physical contact right away. Now, that doesn't mean you just grab the girl and start groping her. It means you've got to break that physical barrier between two people when they first meet up or haven't seen each other for a long while. You can do that easily by brushing her hair back a little if it's in her face, or touching her shoulders softly, because there is something special that happens when you make physical contact with somebody for the first time, or with somebody you haven't seen in a long time. You want to get that part out of the way quickly. It lets the girl know, on a subconscious level, that you and her are more than just ordinary friends, and it helps speed up the intimacy. The best way to do it is simple. Just hold the girl's hand. Make it casual. Like, "Hey, let's go over here," or "Hey, let's go check this out." Then just grab her hand and lead the way. But I'm sure you guys already know all of that. And since I already knew Kat, I didn't even have to think about it. We were automatically doing all of that naturally as we walked to the mall together. When we got to the mall, I asked her if she wanted anything to eat or drink. We both sat down and ate something together. I want to say it was one of those corn dogs on a stick, and we shared it, both taking small bites out of it. Another thing, if the girl is not willing to eat after you, then there's a good chance she does not really like you like that. Bro, women like to play games and test guys, but I've learned to play my own games and give my own tests by then. And so far, Kat was passing all of them. I knew Pizza and Speak 79 were probably somewhere in the mall by now, but honestly, I was trying to avoid them. I still needed to do one more thing with Kat before we all joined up and kicked it together. I took her to the bookstore inside the mall, and we went all the way in the back so we could have a little more privacy together. Kat was just chilling, checking out all the books on the shelves. I snuck up slowly right behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist and whispered in her ear, "Can I tell you a secret, Kat? Something I've been dying to tell you for the past 2 years?" She tilted her head upward at me so our eyes met. I leaned in and kissed her hard, not too hard but hard enough to let her know I really meant it. And then I said, "I really missed you, Kat, honestly." And that really lit something in her because now she was kissing me back even harder. And we started just making out right there in the bookstore in public in front of everybody. And that is honestly something I don't see people do anymore. When I was younger, I used to see couples kissing and making out in public all the time. Now, I can't even remember when was the last time I actually saw someone doing any of that, and that makes me worried for the future, honestly. 'Cause no amount of technology or online clout can make up for having a real life with real relationships. 1000% facts.